Yeah, okay. All right. Stay. Yeah. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is our virtual tours. Welcome, Facebook. Welcome, Instagram. Welcome, Facebook. I am Timothy Barber, the Executive Director of the Black Archives History and Research Foundation in South Florida, as we continue to practice our Safer at Home series. I'm also seeing the CDC has a hashtag up there, say at home together, something to that nature. It's going to pop up again when you guys see that hashtag. Let me know what that hashtag is from the CDC. Welcome, Facebook, as you're coming on. Have my Towner shirt on. We're still in the historic neighborhood of Overtown. We did the entertainment district, which is Northwest 2nd Avenue. Today we're going to be going on the business district of historic Overtown. If you don't know, Overtown is the black hub for Miami. It's the historic neighborhood. Hello, Ebby Queen. Welcome, welcome. Tito Miller, which is behind us and in front of us. Facebook, if you let me know who you're on. I can't see who's on with us on Facebook. It doesn't allow me that information. But definitely, if you want to give definitely give a shout out, I can see who's watching me on Facebook. Welcome, Frosty Flavor. All right, welcome, Frosty Flavor. They're saying no sound. Is that for everyone, no sound, or is it just Ebby Queen? Is just you with no sound? Can everyone hear me? Just if anyone that's out there, just tell me if you can hear me. That would be great. I have one person saying no sound. Do we have sound? Okay, great. So maybe Ebby Queen, maybe check your connection. Welcome, Jody Hill, one of our contractors that joins us for. Thank you, Frosty Flavor. And certainly appreciative of everyone that has joined us, that's joined us. Keep it up, because I'm looking down. I want to kind of look up. Try to keep it up. Thank you. So we're going to get started. Great. Thank you, Frosty, who does a fabulous magazine here for the South Florida and beyond. Thank you so much. Facebook, Cheryl Brown, she can hear. Thank you, Cheryl Brown, for letting me know on Facebook. We're going to start our walk, our journey. As we go forward, I'm going to let you guys walk in front of me, and I'm going to walk. Well, I'll walk behind. So, we're here in historic Overtown. This is Northwest 3rd Avenue. Northwest 3rd Avenue, which is the historic part of Overtown. This would be considered what they called was the business district of Overtown, where on Northwest 2nd Avenue, you had a lot of the clubs, a lot of the entertainment was happening over there. This is the business side, where you had the churches, where you had the restaurants, you had the businesses that were here, from cleaners to shoe shops to diners. This is that corridor, Northwest 3rd Avenue. Historically, Overtown was established 1896. All right, Godfrey, see you, man.
Hey, how you doing?
All right. Good to see you. Yes, sir. We on it.
Hey, you're doing great things at Black Archive, man.
Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. We're gonna be back like we never left now.
All right, I got you.
All right. So the Northwest 3rd Avenue corridor. If you can see, last week we pointed out. I just want to point out this area. As you can see, this backdrop. It's very important that the backdrop you see me. You really see how close downtown is in relation to Overtown. You see the high rises that have come up over the last several years, but the vicinity of downtown as it relates to this black community is fairly close, where it's almost being overshadowed. We're going to look at it. That's the east. We're going to look at it from the west. As we turn and catch it from the west, we're looking at Mount Zion. But most importantly, the I-95 expressway that encroaches onto the Overtown community, which is a vital part. We're going to keep walking as we go down this particular thoroughfare. I want to really point out a lot of the businesses that are in here. I should have went a little further back to 8th Street, where we would have caught Groove and Bean, and we would have caught the Carver building, which is now has been restored, and we have Groove and Bean down in the Carver, and we have some other things. I want to stop briefly right here, and what we probably would do is we'll try to get both angles of everything that we're doing. Right where I'm standing at now is directly in front of the Mason Lodge, what historically was the lodge for the Prince Hall Masons, International 365. This is one of our historic landmarks in Overtown. that has been restored, but it has been converted from being the lodge to becoming, and I'm going to have the guys to back up just a little bit so that they can get some of the features of the building. Mason Lodge, let's go from this angle right here. 365, and I need to back up a little bit here. Mason Lodge number 365, historically is very important. It's New Providence Lodge 365, which is a historic landmark in Overtown on a local registry of historic places. The importance of this lodge, it points back to Jim Crow. It points back to Jim Crow. And the importance of this lodge is that when Miami was incorporated, 1865, you had a lot of, 1896, I apologize, 1896. Miami was incorporated, so you had a lot of blacks were here working. Even more so, I found out in some of my research that a lot of the workers, black workers that were building the railroad were actually prison camp workers as well. But then you had a lot of Bahamians that began to live in this area too. So when Miami was designated, incorporated, and then you gave the, when Julia Tuttle, Henry Flagler designated the west side of the tracks, which we're on now, to people of color, many people from all over, from Bahamas, from Georgia, resided in this small area, small footprint. And one thing is that the Masons were established, an established organization that existed in Miami. Now, the only lodge that was available for the Masons to gather and to meet was in Coconut Grove. This lodge was in Coconut Grove. That's where they went to meet. However, they had to travel to the groves. And as we know by custom and laws, blacks in Miami was not allowed. And I want to just go in a little bit about a sundown town. Anybody know about sundown towns? That the saying for a sundown town, don't let the sun catch you inside, go down while you're in that town if you were black. Miami, to me, in some instances, could have been considered a sundown town, because what they did not allow was for blacks to move back and forth, to traverse back and forth through white communities without a pass, without a similar to what we would call everyday driver's license. And I kind of want to pull this out, just a little lesson to talk about. This is what we call our driver's license, our state issued driver's license. You can't drive without having a driver's license. Now imagine for blacks not being able to walk where they wanted to walk, in areas that they wanted to walk, without having something similar on their persons, on their property, that showed why they were in that area. So most blacks that had to work in white areas in Miami had to have something similar to what we call a driver's license. We have several. They're permit cards that allow you to be in that neighborhood. And interesting, there's nothing new under the sun. We're faced with this situation that happened in Georgia. There's nothing new under the sun. That particular card that they had their picture on it. It had their thumbprint on it. It also had where they lived, and it also had where they worked at. And if you did not have this, you're subject to being arrested. But in some cities, we know you are subject to death. And she said yes, and it's still yes, it still exists today. Exactly. So the Masons had to go to Coconut Grove in order to visit and have their lodge meetings. But however, Miami was a city that blacks could not travel through white neighborhoods at night. So many of the Masons could not make the Mason Lodge meetings, which was in Coconut Grove, some miles from here. So this lodge came as a result of that Jim Crow era, where they petitioned the Grand Lodge in Jacksonville in order to incorporate this lodge here in Overtown, so that the Masons can still have a place to meet in the Overtown neighborhood. And that's why it was built in 1954, dedicated in 1963. Names such as Jordan Dawkins, Ed Wilson, Hilton Pedition, Ramos, R. Ramos, Alfred Wilson, George Sawyer, Andrew Roberts, Ben Gilbert, Pete Evans, D.L. Roll, were part of the building committee, Samuel, Geneva, Johnny May Hills, and Hagrid. Those were the originals that helped to build this lodge in the Overtown neighborhood. The lodge has several features that existed. You can come on this side. I want to try to point out some of the features that, if you are a Mason, if you're a Mason, you will know. I don't want you to get too far already. If you're a Mason, you'll know why there's two windows. You're out of the shot a little bit. Come over this way. So if you're a Mason, you'll know why there's two windows above the door. You'll know why the three windows with the round suffix. Those things are based in the Mason traditions, and those things you have to find out on your own, because I'm not going to give it to you. All right. So also want to point out, we're still on Northwest 3rd Avenue. Jackson Soul Food, which is a historic restaurant here in Overtown, has been here for many years. Was not aware that there were two Jackson Soul Foods. There were two Jackson's restaurants. There's original Jackson restaurant, which we have the history of Jackson restaurants in the archives, and then we have Jackson Soul Food restaurant, which exists here. A great place to eat. Has undergone some great changes, and if you are in the Overtown area, if you're in this area, definitely want you to come by, and after we get through the Corona issue, come by and see Jackson Soul Food. All right, Gulfport St. Pete was a sundown town. Thank you, Evie Queen, definitely for that. We're going to keep walking. As Overtown residents, every year, Overtown has a tree lighting ceremony. This is the corner of that tree lighting ceremony that's put on by the Southeast Overtown Park West Community Redevelopment Agency. I want to point out as we walk down this particular structure here, if you can span that, we're going to span the globe of this street. This particular structure here has existed for many years. It was built during the time that most of the things were going concrete, but the most unique thing about the structures in Overtown is that they were live-work units. So as you glance down, you'll see a lot of the buildings is where all the businesses were on the bottom floor, and all of the housing was on the top floor. This was the way that Overtown was built, as a live-work places where you can just go right downstairs to the place of business and work. And I see you, Mr. Sands, Raymond Sands. Good to see you on board. So this structure here was probably about the 40s, was built in the 40s, and it still exists today. We have some historic photos where on the corner of these buildings were some magnificent signs, magnificent neon signs. I hope one day we'll be able to bring those neon signs back that were on this particular building itself. So as we continue to walk down the streetscape of Overtown, this business district, we're seeing the many businesses that have come in, that has gone left, that have come back, left, that have come back. You know, so this is one of those things that as we walk this thoroughfare, you think about it, when you look at a lot of the historic photos, this would have been side by side, just like we talked about last week. A lot of the structures would have been side by side. There would not have been any space along 3rd Avenue, no empty space along 3rd Avenue. It was just straight business. As we continue to walk down this, I'm going to point out something that has come back and is new to Overtown, has returned. Two historic hotels, because as you know, blacks were not allowed to sleep in the hotels. Before we do that, I want to glance into the workspace. A lot of these buildings have foyer areas that exist, but after that, I want to point out two major locations, two major things that we have in the Overtown area is the hotels. Blacks are not allowed to be in hotels on Miami Beach. So I mentioned last week that a lot of people, raise it up just a little bit so I can look down. A lot of people used to be entrepreneurs and create hotels, the Dorsey Hotel, as well as the Ward Rooming House. But amazingly, the Josephine Dunn Hotel, which you see behind me, you see the Josephine Dunn Hotel, which is being restored, is now back in Overtown, where we have a hotel built in 1938, built in 1947. This hotel is being restored. Has a great Art Deco feel, as well as Mediterranean, with the parapets along it. But this is what's going to begin to rejuvenate and revive this community of Overtown, is these particular hotels as a start. So this thoroughfare was lined with hotels. Years ago, the Carver Hotel was just south of here, Josephine Dunn, Dorsey Hotel. And as we continue to walk this thoroughfare, continue to walk, just seeing if I have any questions from anyone. As we continue to walk this thoroughfare, this virtual field trip, you stay right there on the side right here. Going to the angle this way. Want to point out some more architecture that is here in Overtown. This particular building is similar to what you see in historic Miami Beach, the pink building, historic Miami Beach here. This is a Art Deco style with even MIMO, has MIMO features. It used to be a shoe shop that was in the bottom for many years, a shoe cobbler, which you don't see too much anymore, was in the bottom for many years until he passed away. But what I want to point out is the businesses that have replaced it, where you have the barber shop here, which is one building that has replaced it. You have a holistic store that's right next to it. So this is a great way of adaptive reuse. And then when we look at the structure right here, we also have a barber shop that is coming on this side of this live work space. I'm going to cover up as we move further down. How you doing, sir?
All right, brother. Thank you.
Good.
All right.
Primo Cigar Factory, which is here, exists. Things are changing. Are they even open? I didn't know there was a cigar factory here, but great. Cigar factory, so if you want some cigars in Overtown, they are here. Connecting Miami, I believe it's at FDOT has an office in this particular space. So they have found a way to adapt or reuse these spaces from many angles. Now, what I want to point out here, right behind me, is an amazing thing that we have behind us. I want to point out one thing. We got a emergency vehicle going by. All right, so I want to just point out another example of what happened to Overtown that's still standing. So it's very important about the history that still stands. One of these historic things that stand is the Ebenezer Methodist Church. This is the original Ebenezer. Well, the first one was a wood-based church. Then they turned into a CBS concrete block stucco church. Ebenezer was a prominent church. In the black communities, you have Baptist, you have AME, you have Episcopal, you have Holiness, you have Catholic, and you have Methodist. All of these churches existed between Bethel, AME, between St. John, Mount Zion Baptist, St. Agnes Episcopal, which is several blocks down on this way, which also exists, St. John Institutional Baptist Church, but Ebenezer Baptist Church, many people don't realize that Ebenezer was here. It started here in Overtown. Now, if you're from Miami, I can tell you now, if you've ever been to Miami-Jackson High School, the church right across from Miami-Jackson on 36th Street, that's Ebenezer. That's Ebenezer. But this is where they were located in Overtown prior to the introduction of I-95, which was a now north-south expressway. Prior to the expressway, Ebenezer was here. But Ebenezer picked up, and many people, as many residents did, once I-95, you can back up this little, once I-95 began to be introduced into the Overtown neighborhood, many people picked up and left. They picked up and they moved themselves from this community because they did not know there was a fear of the unknown. So there was, I'm trying to keep y'all together. So one shot I'm in, one shot I'm not. How you doing, man? So it was a fear of the unknown. So many families didn't want their children and their families would be subjected to the fact that the government was bringing in this expressway without any input from the community. Many people didn't know what was going to happen to their homesteads. They didn't know what was going to happen to their livelihood. So many people that were financially able, they moved away. They picked up, they moved their family. For example, Dr. Fields and her family left this area when I-95 was coming through, and they moved out to Brownsville, away from the area. So many pioneers really don't like I-95 because of what it did tragically to this community. I showed you last week during our episode how I-95 affected Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church. This week the example is Ebenezer Methodist Church. So what Ebenezer Methodist Church was able to do when this issue of I-95 was coming in, was they picked the church up and they left. They left Overtown and rebuilt off of 36th Street. Because I want to show you not only I-95, we're going to walk just a little bit this way, not only from the I-95 perspective, not only from an I-95 perspective, I want to get it from this angle, but also from a Metro Rail example of how the Metro Rail cut through the Overtown neighborhood and crossed the bridge. But then if you look further down the street, which this is Northwest 11th Street, which takes you to the police precinct, so we're looking forward to doing a police precinct on one of these ventures, you still see the overpass of I-95. So how I-95 affected this community was the only way to cross over to the other side of I-95 of Overtown, you only can do it on 10th Street, 11th Street, or 8th Street, whereas supposed before these roads were cut straight through. So Ebenezer, and I want to point out, Ebenezer has been beautifully restored by the Southeast Overtown Park West Community Redevelopment Agency. Beautifully restored this church. I was a part of the decision making on a lot of this, the restoration process, and it is just beautiful. I'm gonna move out of the picture so you can really see how beautifully this church has been restored. They use it as a community center now, so you can have your parties, you can have your baby showers, your wedding receptions, these things you can have inside the church. As coronavirus we change, we'll be able to go through this church. I want to just turn around briefly and point out to many of you, to this business, when we talk about resources in the Overtown community. This is one of those resources, which is, stop this from ringing. This is one of those resources, which is House of Wings, one of those businesses that hire people. House of Wings is owned by Musa Deek. Musa Deek normally comes on, still serving the community, putting jobs in the community. This is what keeps the community thriving. Businesses like the Lyric Theater, Groove and Beans, Jackson Soul Food, the barber shops. These are what things that the community needs to keep going, keep people working, keep people active. So House of Wings is an amazing place to get some wings. If you come to this neighborhood, definitely stop by House of Wings. Show how this particular building that I showed you, which is a live work type building, how the bottom is being restored and established. So the last thing we want to talk about, we could go further down into the Overtown community, which is further down 3rd Avenue. And once you go down 3rd Avenue, you have Douglas Elementary, you have St. John Institutional, and you have some other businesses down here, 14th Street, where you have the new grocery store, which is down there, that's showing a change in Overtown. So we're not going to go that particular far, but I wanted to stop here because once on these borders, you see it say "Welcome to Historic Overtown," finding ways to adaptively reuse all this concrete that's in this neighborhood has been proven to be effective. What used to exist on this particular building was a replica of the work of Purvis Young. If you remember the second week that we did this virtual tours, I showed you a lot of Purvis Young paintings that existed. Well, the CRA, that began to deteriorate, so they decided to do something else, which is unfinished. But this drawing here is by Adonis Parker, paying reference to historic Overtown. You have pictures of 5 killings on here. You have showing the entertainment side, the drama side of Overtown. Hopefully at some point they will finish this particular painting, and this will be a major gift to Overtown. We're going to cross, and I want to give you a closer view of the architecture that exists on the 2 buildings that we did show you between the Josephine Dunn as well as Ebenezer. All right, just want to get a closer feel for you on the architecture. Now, I want to point out something to you. When you come by, doing some restoration work is important. And these doors are beautiful. This right here is one of my most fascinating things, because what happened was the church originally had wooden doors, and I know as you look at this beautiful door that it looks wood based, but it's a metal door. So one thing I added, and I love this part of it, is that we were able to get an artist to come in and paint the doors to make the doors actually look like wood doors as opposed to wooden doors. So I want you to get a good look at these particular doors. And I always point this out because this was my idea in order to stay historic. When I was on the preservation board for the city of Miami, is that they paint the doors that look like they're wooden doors. And another interesting thing about this building, as a child, you always never remember where you were. I was going through some of my family's artwork, and I noticed that family photos. And as a child, we went to this church. I found pictures of me and my brother. I may have been like 3 years old, standing with my mom, but we were parked on the north side of this particular church. So that's very interesting about my family history in Overtown. I did point out to you that my aunts as well traversed these streets of Overtown when they originally came to Miami from Georgia. The last thing we want to point out to you is the Josephine Dunn, which I hope that we can get a peer inside how wonderfully what they have been able to do with this hotel is a lot of the detail that they have. Come close to the window. Let's see if y'all can kind of piece in a lot of the details of the hotel when you look at some of the artwork inside, the way that they kept focused on the design of it to give it that antique feel. I don't know if the cameras are picking it up, but if you're not doing anything, let's go, fellas. If you're not doing anything, definitely the Josephine Dunn Hotel. Looking at the courtyard at the Josephine Dunn, this was a massively restored job that was wonderfully done, very effectively. A beautiful space that's going to really complement the things that we do at the Lyric Theater in terms of housing. So just want to start, didn't want to keep you long this week, wanted you to kind of get in, get a feel of this virtual tour. It's the Safer at Home series. I want to thank you everyone for joining us during this series. I invite you tonight to join us on our Lyric Theater handle. If somebody from our staff want to put our Lyric Theater Instagram handle up, our Lyric Theater Instagram handle up, because tonight we're going to do Lyric Live, the living room edition again. Last week we did it on last Friday at 8 p.m. It was wonderfully received, and we look forward to you joining us on our Lyric Theater MIA handle. If anybody's able, thank you, Ms. Brandon, our board chair, for being on. If anybody from our staff could post the Lyric Theater MIA handle so that people can see and join us. Thank you, Lewis. Let me pin this. I can pin it here. Pin that comment. Thank you, Lewis. It's the Lyric Theater MIA handle. Appreciate you, Cheryl Brown, for coming on. Raymond Sands, thank you for coming on Facebook. Just want to give people shout outs and thank you. Join us each week. So other than the Lyric Theater MIA tonight at 8 o'clock, join us Saturday for our story times in color with Camila Pritchett. We certainly appreciate you. And then join us next week for our Jeopardy Noir. Join us for our Is It True Tales from the Magic City. Join us for our Legacies. And join us on our Black History Today, as my staff have been wonderfully putting together these virtual programs in order to keep people safe at home, keep people together at home, and keep us really getting through this COVID-19 crisis that we're facing. I really ask everybody to continue to stay safe, continue to help us as we do this programming. If you can, we don't beg you. We don't want to force anybody. If you have the opportunity to cash app us at $BALT, please do so. Every cent help, 50 cents, a penny, every dollar help, every $500 help. But anything helps. So if you're able to do that, yes, thank you, Ebby Queen, for being a valid supporter of what we do. We appreciate you. If there's no other questions, are there any questions? Any questions from anybody? I don't see any questions that anybody may have about this tour or anything that we're doing at the Black Archives. I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you to everyone that has come on today to watch our programming today. Please tell a friend, to tell a friend to continue to follow the Black Archives. Not only during this season, but when we come out of this, we really need the support of our community. We need the support of our people of color. We need to support our brown, black, blue people, everyone to come together and to help what it is that we're doing and the changes that we're making in Overtown. So I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. Everyone have a great day, and we'll see you next week for our virtual tours as we continue to do our Safer at Home series. Goodbye.